So what is a spirited drive? I've used the expression having a spirited drive, enjoying a spirited drive, or after a spirited drive a few times. And I've had a few comments with people just saying, what do I mean by a spirited drive? And here's me thinking that this was an expression that everyone used all over the world, but apparently not. So in this video, we're just going to define what I mean by a spirited drive when we talk about it. Let's face it, most of us on our daily commute to work, we're not enjoying the car. We're just in the car, in traffic, trundling along with all of the other cars. So the concept of a spirited drive is where we get to actually enjoy our car. Now, as a responsible YouTuber, I can't endorse reckless driving or driving above the speed limit, even 1 mile an hour above the speed limit. So I'm not talking about reckless driving or driving above the speed limit. So does that take all the fun out of driving? Well, not really. A spirited drive really is where you're exploiting the upper limits of the car's handling, grip, performance and acceleration. But a good driver knows where those limits are, and you'll always stay on the safe side of those limits, and you'll never exploit them where it's dangerous to do so. So for example, a weekend drive, we're out in the countryside, we've got a nice open road ahead of us with some lovely twisty bends that we can see right through the bend. Maybe we're on the crest of a hill and we can see down into the valley. We've got a good picture as to what is coming up ahead, or it's a road that we know really well. So at that point, we will drive the car more quickly, more aggressively than maybe we would on our daily commute. We'll tend to stick to the top third of the RPM range. We'll use the road fully as it was intended, maybe even taking a racing line through the corners where it's safe to do so, of course. So generally speaking, we're pushing things harder. We're using lower gears, getting better acceleration, exploiting the actual power band in the car. And this is actually good for the car. To do this once in a while, it gives everything a good old blowout, a clear out. We've talked about the Turin tune-up or the Italian tune-up, and I know a lot of you are really enthusiastic about that. But we're not going to cause excessive damage to our car just driving it in a spirited fashion when it's warmed up. If the car is well maintained and well looked after, it's still well within the designs that the manufacturer put upon it. So when it comes to accelerating, we'll tend to try and keep the car in the power band. So as we change up a gear or down a gear, we'll be looking to match the revs when we change into the next gear to just keep ourselves in that power band. So it may mean hanging on to the revs a little more so that when we change into the higher gear, the RPM is still at the power point rather than dipping below that. And if we're changing down a gear, we'll be blipping the throttle to raise the RPM for a smoother gear change. So the overall aim of spirited driving is to keep the car's momentum steady, to get a real feel for the balance of the car, know where the car's grip and handling is, and just optimize it through the corners. So we're taking bends maybe faster than we would normally. The idea of balancing the car on those bends is even more vital. So we'll control the steering input with a little bit of a throttle input just to keep the balance equally on the outside wheels as we go around that corner. So it would be reckless to push too far. I think we've all been that young driver that has just pushed the car far too far, and with hindsight, when maybe they've had a crash or come off the road, they've realized that they've been doing that. But just exploiting the car's performance is perfectly safe. We can do that within the limits that are imposed on us in whichever area that we live. And the whole idea is just to enjoy our car. We've paid for our car. It's just crying out to be used. And most of us, most of the time, will be dripping around at relatively low RPM points. That lower third of the RPM range is where most drivers find themselves in the daily commute, and they're really just missing out on the enjoyment of owning that car. So what are the downsides of a spirited drive? Well, if your car is broken in some way, you've not maintained it, if the tyres are shot or the brakes are on their last legs, it's probably going to push that over the edge. So as with any form of performance modification on the car, you need to up the maintenance. You need to be more fastidious in caring for every aspect of the car to ensure its reliability. So we are still pushing it harder, but well within the manufacturer's limits. So as long as the car has been well looked after and well maintained, there should be no untoward detrimental effects to having a reasonable spirited drive when we drive the car. The critical point though is that we allow the car to warm up before we start doing this, and we give the car a little bit of a time to cool down and settle at the end. Just being sympathetic, it's this mechanical sympathy, understanding that metals contract and expand, oils and fluids need to warm up to operating temperatures or cool down to operating temperatures if they've been pushed too hard. So let me know if you enjoy a spirited drive, if it's a term that is new to you, something that maybe you've just heard me using, or something you've used a long time, and which area you live. That will really help to get a feel for where you guys are so that I can tailor future content to suit your interests. So thanks for watching. Please boot the like button. That really does help us to get out there. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. We'd love you to stay tuned, and I've lined this video up for you that you should find really interesting. Thanks a lot. Thanks for watching.